Maybe the beginning of a new era in baseball. So here to launch us into the postseason, ESPN's Keith Olbermann. Okay, Keith, you know, I think about the Yankees and the A's. We see the power matchup. This reliever situation, the pitching, there is so much to unpack here. What do you make of what's coming up tonight?
Future versus the past, Ryan. It's pretty simple. This is the way it's going, and it's going to go pretty quickly with teams that don't have an ace starter. And I think, in fact, the A's using the bullpen game with the so-called opener, and an idea that's been floating around baseball for 50 years. I think the Yankees would be doing it, too, if they had more confidence in their bullpen than they do in a couple of starters. But essentially you're saying, I'm going to guess and see which one of my high-priced starters is going to get us through a few innings versus saying, all right, we're going to have a succession of relievers, and I can at least choose, do my left-handed relievers face left-handed hitters, and do my right-handed relievers face right-handed hitters. It's a change in baseball, and it's kind of like the marquee event in the process of the change.
So you think if this works, if the A's actually win the game with this strategy, we could see, do you think we could see more of this in the playoffs? Is that even possible?
It's certainly possible, and we've seen it before. We've seen teams use, say, essentially, we're going to start a pitcher who we expect will only go a couple of innings. I mean, if you go back to the 7th game of the World Series last year, Clayton Kershaw came in to pitch on short rest in relief after the Dodgers removed their starter. All you're saying now here is we're going to, instead of use Clayton Kershaw if the starter gets into trouble, we're bringing Clayton Kershaw in for the first 2 innings and then taking him out, or however long he's effective. Yeah. I mean, if you go through the history of baseball, as much as we were before in the starter mode, and these are starters, and these bad pitchers over here are relievers, countless times in postseason history, in World Series history, in deciding games of World Series, managers removed starting pitchers in the first inning. That's all this is. It's just because we're hung up on the names of who's a starter and who's a reliever.
Yeah, it's a great point. And, speaking of history, baseball for so long seems to have been very cautious about offending traditionalists. And we saw a little bit of a change last night, Keith, in an ad they put out.
Yeah, but the traditionalists are already in the boat and they're already buying the product. You're trying to get this game sold to younger audiences. Otherwise, it is inevitable that the game will someday not have a younger audience. So why not? I mean, you might as well, after last night's game with Nolan Arenado, you might as well call this the Hug Your Local Neighborhood Third Baseman campaign. Why not? If it doesn't affect the play, or it doesn't seem to affect all the baseball unwritten rules are there to exacerbate the tensions between the teams. And that was in a time in which people wanted to see when the players viewed each other as opponents, and they were fined by the league if they talked to each other before a game. That era has passed, and whereas there are occasionally fights and there are occasionally beanball wars and there's bad blood, fans don't want to see that, evidently, anymore, as judged by the NBA and to some degree the NFL. They want to certainly see less of it. I think baseball is just responding to that.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's going to bring in a lot of younger fans, and it makes the game exciting. I like to see the emotion. Keith, I like to see you all the time. Great to talk to you, my friend.